I'm going to start with the higher one, business objectives, right? The business itself, whether it's one department or an entire company, is trying to change something. They need higher sales. They need fewer people doing this one thing. They need more people using this thing that they have sitting out there for people to use and help customers with, right? So they want to change that. In order to do that, people have to know to change their behavior. So that becomes your performance objective or your series of performance objectives. What behaviors are going to cause this change in our business metric? And from there, you can say, okay, what do we really need to know in order to change our behavior or act differently so that we can reach the business objective? And it sounds really neat and clean. It's not. Of course, there's a whole lot else that goes in to sustain behavior change, but really they all flow into each other. And if you think about SMART objectives, the business objectives are completely SMART. The performance objectives pretty much cover the actionable and the relevant. And the learning objectives cover the specific and measurable.
So, when I look at it, I really look at it from the performance objective first. So if they clearly understand what needle they want to move from a performance perspective, then that should really help inform what your learning objective is, right? So, you have to then say, if this is your overall performance objective, what are the little bits and pieces that go into moving that performance needle? And those are really, from my experience, what those learning objectives become. And then if you can't tie that performance objective to a business objective, then I'm not really sure why you have that performance objective, right? So our performance should make us more productive, more profitable, and move those business objectives that are being set at a much higher level than where we are.
You will rarely have a chance for a proper needs assessment. So they just either don't have the money, or you don't have the people, or you don't have the time. And they don't really understand the point of it, because you'll probably get requests mostly for put together this training for us. So if you're an idealist, and most of us are, and you want to do things correctly, you have to pick your battles wisely and learn to educate. The organization ends up being your customer as well. You have to educate them throughout the process rather than fighting for it sometimes. And you'll have to put your foot down sometimes and say, no, we're not serving the learner and we're not serving the organization if we don't do this correctly. But you will have to find compromises. And that's the biggest gap. If people could understand that work at the front end will make that product, or the end result of the experience, so much more effective, but they just want it so fast, and you end up recreating the same training over and over again because you didn't do it right the first time.
I think fundamentally the basic problem that most SMEs have when they come and say, I need this training around XYZ, is that they really don't know what they're trying to solve. So they see the symptoms, or they see the pain points around something, but they don't really know how to get to what the actual problem is. So
they want to teach everyone everything that they know. They're so smart. They're experts for a reason, and they've learned things the hard way, and they forget. It's learner experience. They forget where they were when they were learning whatever it is we need people to learn right
now. I think a lot of it is really trust. So they have to trust that you're adding value to the discussion. So most of them don't know what an instructional designer is, what they do. they kind of think, oh, it's training, anybody can do that. And so, really having those conversations with them and getting to know what they do, and, specifically understanding their challenges and their environment, and having those conversations builds that trust. And what I have found is then they are much more open to having discussions around why it's important to really understand what the problem is, so that you can clearly write objectives that are meaningful and that you can measure, and that ultimately, push performance, which is what the whole goal is, right? It's to either, get them to change and do something differently, or just to get them to do what they're doing better. So to me, that's kind of the fundamental thing, is really helping them understand how to understand what they're trying to solve and whether or not that can be solved with training.
Let's stop dumbing down our materials for people. People are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. They're learning all the time, with or without us. It's us to enhance their innate nature of learning anyway. We're not doing anything they're not doing on their own. We're just making it better. And so challenge them and build in the mistakes, because that is how we learn. And just remember that learning was so much fun when it didn't have all these constraints to it.